Do you ever feel like you're drowning in tasks and have no choice but to work 10 or 12-hour days? Well, that used to be me as well, until I built this simple system that lets me work as many hours I want and still grow my business. So in this video, I'm going to show you that system, the tool that goes with it, and how to customize it for your business so that you can work less and scale faster. Now, this system is built around one simple tool, the business scorecard. And to save you a ton of work, building it, I'm just going to give you the template that I normally keep for my high-level clients in the Mastery operating system. You can click the link in the description below to get it. So here's what we're going to do. First, I'm going to walk you through the scorecard and how it works and how to use it. And then I'll show you how it plugs into the full system that you can use to run your business. When you open the scorecard here, what you'll notice are a number of tabs along the bottom. You'll see the year tab, and then you'll see a tab for each month. Let's start with the monthly view, okay? What you'll see is that in the rows, each month is broken down into weeks. Obviously, depending on the month, some weeks are 1 day, some weeks are 7 days, but I prefer it this way so we can get a clear picture of the whole month without any overlap. You can obviously change this if you want, but I wouldn't really recommend it. Now, in the columns, you'll see 4 different sections to track. So we have the business essentials, which are revenue, cash collected, expenses, and profit. Then we have the 3 major functions of every business: marketing, sales, and operations. Now, remember, this is a template, so depending on your business, you might have other functions that you want to track. That's fine, you can just add them to the scorecard, but these are the essentials for every business. In each function, you're going to track the 3 major metrics of that function. So if you imagine a basic system or function in a business, you have the input, a number of processes, then the output. The output is the most important metric, as it's the one that really matters. It's what the system is trying to achieve. Now, for each of these functions, as you can see, I've left the 3 major metrics that you should track blank, as they will be relevant to your business and your system. So obviously I can't tell you what they should be, but a general rule of thumb for what metrics to track is that metric 1 should be around volume or inputs, metric 2 should be around conversion or efficiency, and metric 3 should be around the outcome or goal result. So, if we look at marketing, the first metric could be number of emails sent or number of pieces of content posted. The second might be conversion percentage on your lead magnet landing page. And the third is going to be the goal output of marketing, so leads generated. Now, under the metric row, what you'll see is a goal row. Okay, this row here. This is where you want to fill in the goal you have for each metric, so the standard that you want it to reach. Now, if you're not sure what this should be for each metric, just ask ChatGPT. If you give it some context around your business, your niche, your systems, your offer, and all that, it's normally pretty good at giving you some sort of benchmark here. Then at the bottom of this sheet, you'll see that we have an average and total row. The purpose of these is for the yearly tab, which we'll get into in a minute, but what they do is they calculate the average and total for each metric automatically as you fill in the data for that month. Now, whether you use the average or total depends on the metric. So if it's a raw number, the likes of revenue or number of leads generated or sales made, you want to use a total. And if it's a percentage like conversion rate or churn or show up rate, you want to use the average. Now, once you've customized this for your business, all you have to do is one thing. Every week, you open the spreadsheet and you fill in the number for that week, okay? So, if you made $10,000 in revenue in one of the weeks, you type in $10,000, super simple, right? And a really cool thing that you can do here is you can add comments in certain weeks. So if you ran, in this week here, you ran a marketing campaign or you changed the headline or whatever you did, you can add that as a comment on the week that you did it. Then you can look at the data over the next few weeks that follow and actually see what impact that change had. And you'll basically end up knowing why the data changed the way it did, rather than just being like, oh, something changed, this got better or this got worse. And now you can see why it changed, whether or not the change was good or bad. This way you learn, right? This way you increase your knowledge base and you actually become better at business and you can grow faster while working less. Now, of course, some decisions you'll need to wait, say 1 or 2 or even 3 months before deciding if it's good or bad, depending on the volume you have flowing for your business. But still, it gives you a point of reference as to when something changed, what it was that changed, and the impact of that change. Now, here's how the year view works. If we go to the year view, it is the same layout as the monthly tab, only instead of weeks in the rows, we've got each month of the year. And right now you'll see, a ton of zeros and divide or div zero errors. Don't panic, okay? Don't be like, what the fuck is this? That's simply because this yearly tab is pulling data from the monthly tab, and so those tabs aren't filled in yet. So for example, the January revenue here is linked to the revenue cell inside the January tab. So this yearly tab will auto-populate as you track data each month, okay? Now, see these div 0 error cells? These cells are linked to the monthly average cell for that metric in that month. You may need to change this to the total cell for that metric in that month if the metric is a raw number, not a percentage. So if the metric is a raw number, you want to pull the total, but if it's a percentage, we want to pull the average. For example, if in marketing, the metric free that we want to track is leads generated, it's a raw number, not a percentage. Therefore, we want to track the total for that month, not the average. So in that case, just update that cell in the yearly view to reference the total cell in that month's tab, not the average. And see, if you don't know how to do that, just put a few screenshots of the spreadsheet into ChatGPT and ask it. It'll tell you exactly what to do step by step. Now, most business owners will never be able to run their business effectively because they'll never use a scorecard like this for two main reasons. Firstly, because they tell themselves that they're not a numbers person, which is fucking bullshit. You're a business owner. You have to be a numbers person. Stop telling yourself that story, which does nothing but limit you and hold your business back. Or two, they'll feel overwhelmed and use it for a week before quitting. Now, luckily I have 6 super simple things that I get all my clients to do, which makes using this so easy that it's actually hard not to do. The first is manual entry, okay? Look, certain parts of this scorecard are automated, like the averages and the totals and the yearly tab pulling from the monthly tabs, but the vast majority of it requires you to manually enter the data, and that is intentional. See, when you manually enter the data, you actually understand the data better. You get a better pulse on where the business is at a much higher level than if everything is just automatic. Like if you just come in here and all this data was automatically filled in, it means fucking nothing to you, right? But because you are manually doing it, it hits harder. You get to see where your business actually is, and because it's manual, you're much less likely to forget about it. Secondly, stay on track. The main reason people hate scorecards and data and stuff like that isn't because of the scorecard itself, it's because of what happens when they don't fill in the data regularly. You fall behind, you get overwhelmed, and you're like, oh fuck, there's so much to do, I'll just leave it. But you never get back to it. So a key to making this work is making sure that you stay on track and use the scorecard regularly by making this part of your business workflow. Now, don't worry, I'm going to show you the easiest way to do this in a few minutes, so stick around. But thirdly, we want to use trends over points. So the main problem with data is that in smaller time frames, like the day-to-day, right? There's fluctuations, primarily due to the operations of your business. And if you make decisions based on the day-to-day fluctuations, your decisions are just going to be shit. So instead, we want to utilize trends and the direction the data is moving in. Again, don't panic. I'll show you how to do this soon. But this is why we have the yearly view so that we can see averages and trends. Number 4, keep it simple. So I've tested a bunch of different tools for this. My clients have too. Most of them are super powerful, but that's actually the problem. When something is so powerful, it normally ends up being too complicated, and therefore there's too much friction. You end up not using it, you don't stick to it, you never use the data. That's why this is in Google Sheets, okay? There's absolutely nothing complicated about it, especially since, I'm giving you the template. You just fill in the numbers once a week. And if you want this to work, keep the scorecard as simple as possible. Number 5, use the data. So the best thing about this scorecard is that it gives you an actual objective view of what's working and what's not working in your business based on where the data is in relation to its goal. It's why we have the goal row. So what you want to do is prioritize what you're working on today or this week or this month or this quarter based on the data that is the bottleneck. Typically, the bottleneck is the metric that's furthest below its goal earliest in the system. You can now see what needs fixed the most and therefore prioritize it so that you're no longer guessing and progress becomes easy, predictable, and consistent. Number 6 is to assign ownership. So see every single metric in this scorecard, it needs an owner, someone who is responsible for improving it. Now, obviously, if you're a solopreneur, you're responsible for all the metrics, but if you've got a team, ensure that everyone knows the metric they're in charge of and that you know what metrics you're in charge of, if any. But now, how do you actually use this scorecard to run your business without having to work, 12-hour days every day? Well, let me show you. So there's 4 steps to systemizing this. Firstly, you want to have a scorecard for each function, okay? So this scorecard that you're seeing here is your business scorecard. It shows you the high-level overview of your entire business, but each function in your business, so marketing, sales, operations, and finance, should also have its own scorecard that tracks the day-to-day numbers in much more detail. So I'll throw an example up on screen here, but in the monthly tabs, instead of tracking data each week, you track data every day. And instead of only tracking 3 major metrics, you track every step of that system that can be measured. This way you can keep the business scorecard super simple and clear, but if something is broken and you want more information, you jump into the relevant function scorecard to find which specific metric is actually causing the problem. Secondly, ownership. So remember how one of the rules is that every metric in your business scorecard should have an owner, someone who is responsible for it. Well, how that actually looks in terms of workflow is typically your marketing lead is responsible for all the marketing metrics. That means they're responsible for filling in the marketing scorecard every day. You then go into the marketing scorecard once a week, get that week's data for the relevant metrics and add it into the business scorecard. And if you want to keep a pulse on the business and truly understand where it's at and the direction it's moving, I would highly recommend you fill in the business scorecard data yourself. Do not get someone else to do it. Do not automate it with AI, because when you do it yourself, it forces you to look at where your business actually is for 10 minutes and you'll make better decisions all week. Now, that brings us to the third step, which is a weekly review. So look, data is great. It's fantastic. You need it in your business, but it's pretty useless if you don't actually do anything with it. So you want to take some time on a Sunday. Well, like, you can do it whatever day you want, but like, you're not going to do it on a Wednesday, are you? It's a bit weird, but anyway, each to their own. Either way, take 10 minutes once a week to review the business scorecard. What are the problems? What needs fixed? You can then dive into the system level scorecards if you need more detail, and you can then prioritize fixing what needs to be fixed. And see if you've got a team, I would highly recommend doing this in a team meeting on a Monday for about 30 minutes and going over the data with the team so you can identify the primary constraint, come up with a solution for fixing it, and who will implement it. Step 4 then is execute. So now your week is super simple, okay? You're not guessing, you're not reacting to whoever shouts loudest in Slack or whatever emails are the most urgent, because you know what matters based on the data, and so you can go all in on it, and it's super simple, okay? The whole workflow is this. You have system level scorecards that track every metric in that system. Your team, or you if you're a solopreneur, fills these in at the end of every day. You then have the business scorecard. You fill this in based on the data from the system scorecards every Sunday. Then you do a weekly review. You review what's broken, what's working, and what needs executed on, either doing this, on a Sunday or during a Monday morning team meeting. It's up to you. You then execute what needs executed on, fixing problems based on data, taking action based on data. You're no longer guessing, and you've just taken back control of your damn business. Look, most entrepreneurs are drowning in decisions. They're stuck in the weeds and wasting 12 hours a day trying to figure out what matters. This scorecard gives you the answer in 10 minutes, and you can now theoretically and actually quite literally run your business in 10 minutes a week, because you can delegate all the day-to-day tasks to your team and you just make the decisions based on the scorecard. But of course, you probably have some other work that you want to do and that you need to do. So if you want the system that I use so I can run my business in less than 4 to 5 hours a day, click the video on screen now and I'll show you exactly how it works.